Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Writer's Room. I'm your co-host, Kat Rocha, the night editor, and with me, as always, is...
Jay Sherifini, author and alien in a human suit, and with us tonight is...
CJ Carella.
Carella,
I apologize.
Greetings and salutations.
So it's been quite a while since we brought you on. Last time we were talking to you a lot, primarily about, was it the Warp Marine series?
Right.
But now you've been kind of... no, don't worry, Janelle. We'll talk about Rifts later. Right now, you've kind of begun delving into another genre, which at this point is highly controversial, especially among more hardcore fiction readers, and that is LitRPG. You've got two series, from what I understand, the GODKILLER Mode and the Eternal Journey books.
Yes. Yep, that was, so basically we talked about 9 or 10 books ago.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because when we last talked, I was still, I think, on book 3 or 4 of the Marine series, and I completed 5 books in the first series and then another 3 books in the second series. And then I was a little adrift. I was a bit burnt out on military science fiction and wanted to try something else. And people kept talking to me about LitRPG, which at first I never even bothered reading the books because it sounded kind of like a silly idea. And then I started getting into it and figured I would try try my hand at that, and I found myself having a lot of fun with it. But that's in many ways that's because I started in gaming. I started writing role-playing games. That's how I made my bones, and I've also been an avid computer player since I was in my early 20s. So when I started mixing the two things together, it actually I found myself having a ton of fun writing it.
Well, I guess before we dive into the two titles that or two series you're working on, how would you define LitRPG to our listeners?
Well, LitRPG is a genre where gaming terms and concepts play an intrinsic part in the story. So in addition to the typical descriptions of action and characters and dialogue, you also have things like gaming stats. You have things like growing up in level and so on. There are two main conceits in creating LitRPG, two main subgenres, let's say. One is the virtual reality game where somebody, for some reason, is playing a game that feels like reality, but it's a game, and obviously has all the rules of the game, which are part of the story. And the second one is kind of like the old isekai, transported to a different world, the storyline, but the world where people find themselves in has, for some reason, game-like rules to the world that are as real as magic or gravity or the laws of physics. So that's basically what LitRPG involves. And for the most part, it's fantasy, but there are also science fiction and superhero versions of LitRPG stories.
And harem.
And harem, yes.
Okay, so, and how, for you, you've got two series. How did you tackle it?
Well, I went for the what they call portal fantasy. The main characters basically find themselves in a world that is governed by gaming rules imposed by some kind of entity that's clearly mucking around with reality and creating things like stats and levels and growing up in power by killing things. And the characters have no idea exactly why or how it's happening, but they're caught in it, so they have to make do with what they can do about it.
Okay.
So that's the theme of the story. Sorry, fighting a cold. And so yeah, I mean, let me know if you have any questions about
Well, I think the genre itself has a lot of potential. When I had first heard about it, I guess I had kind of a different impression. I mean, I guess the immediate go-to is Tron. For those Gen Xers who remember
Oh
the
yeah.
original Tron. But there was like a whole host of films and stories done for a while there that seemed to be, let's apply game logic to the real world, or kind of a merging of the two. And I would say good examples of that would be Mamoru Oshii's Avalon, Gantz, the anime, All You Need Is Kill. These were all taking gaming type things and shoving them on top of the world, making it some sort of existential exploration. But this seems more like you are pulled into a nuts and bolts JRPG. Is that a fair assumption?
There is a bit of that, yeah. The character starts seeing projections, including things like characters' nameplates floating over their heads and things like that. So in a sense, it feels like the guy just dropped into the middle of World of Warcraft.
Oh, okay.
He's seeing things that you would see in a World of Warcraft game. You're seeing the characters' stats floating over their heads. When he hits something, a damage number erupts from the wound, and gives him an idea of how much damage he did. And at first, obviously, the characters are weirded out by the whole concept, but when they get hit, they don't just see numbers. They feel like a cut on their arm and they're bleeding. So it's not. So it's real. It feels completely real, and as far as they can tell, they're in a world that's real, that has these game rules superimposed on top of it.
So how absurdist can this genre get? I mean, would there be like, I guess, LitRPG settings where if you like shoot the whiplash a candle, you get a turkey or free health?
I've tried to make it as much as an MMORPG as I can. So when the characters like kill somebody, they can a loot bag will appear floating over their heads.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
and they can access it and reach it, and they can find like a healing potion and some gold. And yeah, they find it bizarre and crazy, but both characters in the series were people who were playing games, so they actually know how things are supposed to work in a game. So they're trying to combine that with the fact that they're still living, breathing beings that get hurt, and they're dealing with human beings, not NPC computer characters, and they have to handle that and try to survive.
I thought the interesting thing about other settings that applied game logic to the real world, like All You Need Is Kill and Gantz, was it was essentially realizing living it is kind of hell. That living a game wasn't necessarily nearly as fun as it sounds.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the first thing that happens to the character in the Eternal Journey is he gets into a fight, and when he realizes what he's done, that he's actually killed people, he starts, he loses his lunch. He's disgusted. I mean, the smells and the sensations are nothing like in a game. You're not killing pixels. You're slashing into living flesh, and you're having your living flesh being cut. So you essentially have all the drama and adventure that you get in an ordinary piece of fiction, but you're also getting the sort of the reward system that games give you. On top of achieving things in a story, you're also increasing your character's power. So you have you get a little almost Pavlovian reward system that games give you. And I think that's why the genre becomes so popular.
You have a question. In Disguise asked if when people die, do they respawn or are they dead?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, in depending on the story, in some cases people just die permanently. In some cases they can respawn. In my tales, the characters have a limited number of lives, and if they die, they will respawn. But it's a limited number, so eventually you will die for real. And there are methods to kill the so-called Eternals, who are the main characters in the stories, to kill them permanently without having to kill them over and over. So it's not they're not immortal.
Well, that's cool. And to answer Mad C, he is talking about his book series.
Yeah, let's talk. What is the Eternal Journey book? What the setting? What's it like? Give the listeners an idea of what it's about.
Okay, well, yeah, in Eternal Journey, it starts on Earth. There's a new MMORPG that's come out that people want to try, and during the weekend where the game debuts, over 60,000 people disappear from Earth with no trace. Nobody knows why. The novel then proceeds to tell the story of one of those 60,000 people. And the guy in question, he was just an ordinary guy, a plumber who liked to play computer games on the side. And next thing he knows, he's in a fantasy world. There are monsters after him. He has to fight to survive, and he's a first level paladin, which is the character class that he took when he started playing the game. And he's in the body that he designed for his icon. And now he's in this world. He doesn't know why or how. And the first thing that happened is this weird spider-like people are trying to kill him. And he's trapped in some kind of tunnel system and doesn't know where to go or what to do. So, and then we follow his adventures in a world that's fantastic, that has all the fantasy races, and then has human contingents that apparently have been recruited from different eras of Earth's history. And the people that he's running into are sort of descendants of some kind of group of Imperial Rome refugees that have been in this world for millennia.
Which again, that's great.
Yeah, and it's once he does the math, he figures out that these people have been longer in this world than they were in our world's history. So there's something weird going on.
Which is a nice twist.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the plumber like?
Well, he's just he's sort of like a regular guy. He's he likes gaming, but he's not very he's not much of a geek. So he's having trouble kind of adapting to this very bizarre world, and he has like a practical attitude toward things. So he's not the typical uber geek character who knows everything about gaming.
Now, oh, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, and the thing is, he's not really like a shy guy. He's more of a I wouldn't say a manly guy, but he's not afraid to get dirty, and he'll do whatever he has to do to survive.
Now, I was going to ask, just because we've got a character stuck in a video game, there aren't any like puns or cracks about Mario, is there?
No, but there is a few. There's a few jokes about World of Warcraft and other games, but yeah, there is a fair amount of pop culture references.
So the other one that you're doing is called GODKILLER Mode.
Yes.
And what is that one about?
Well, that actually it's in the same universe as Eternal Journey, and it's another of the 60,000 people who got abducted from Earth. Except this one was a college girl in her early 20s. Just sat down to play the game, and she popped up in a different part of the world. Except in her case, a goddess, an obscure Mesopotamian goddess, was grabbing all the Eternals as they arrived and started feeding on their life force and killing them. She manages to escape with the help of some mysterious benefactor, and when she finally arrives at the world, she has the goddess powers inside of her. which gives her a very different gaming experience.
So she doesn't start out as level 1, is what you're saying.
Well, she is level 1, but she also has a god core inside of her. So it's she has abilities that regular people don't have.
Such as?
Well, she has abilities that can manipulate reality. She has abilities that can bypass regular spells and spell resistance. And all she has to do is learn how to use them, and she become incredibly powerful. Except she has no idea how to make any of that work. And how she learns about her abilities and survives is the story.
So for my own book and series of articles that our audience is quite aware of, I had spoke to CJ earlier about the character Caitlin in this book. This is in relation to my Boobs of Steel series. And what he told me about Caitlin, and I would want to get into this a bit because, as we all know right now, female heroines are unfortunately yet another controversial and minefield of woke problems when you tackle it.
Well, I haven't read a female protagonist book that hasn't been written since the 1930s.
You just can't deal with them anymore?
No, I can't.
And from what you had told me was you said that the heroine, Caitlin, is loosely based on, people you met in, kind of the geek scene, the overachiever, or shy around strangers, vivid imagination, and not woke.
No, she's I would say she's like a nice liberal girl. She tries to get along, but she doesn't have an activist bone in her body. She's not trying to save the world. She's trying to find her own way. She probably wouldn't be she certainly would not be on Twitter 24/7 looking for things to be outraged about.
Well, I would think it was the daughter of a Marine. That sort of thing wouldn't fly at home.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. She is the daughter of a Marine, so she learned how to defend herself. She doesn't like guns, but she learned how to use one. She learned how to be safe around them. So, and she got taught that no, criminals are not nice people. That you should cuddle. If somebody comes after you, you have to let them have it with everything you have, so you can get away. So she has that little bit of rationality and practicality inside of her, which serves her well when she's in a world where people will kill you just to get your shoes.
That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
The other aspect that I thought was interesting is that you had said that Caitlin has some insecurities, feeling that her mother was more attractive than her, which pushes her into creating a more beautiful avatar, which I think is really on the nose. I mean, that's reality. Regardless of what's said right now about, don't objectify female characters, all this claim, we want ugly female characters. No,
that's bullshit. And I've been a game master for tabletop role playing for well over 20 years, and I've had numerous female gamers. Actually, at one point, my gaming group was 4 female players and 2 male players, and not once in all the time and with all the female players I've had, has one of them deliberately picked an ugly and attractive character.
I'd have to agree with that with my experience.
Same.
Kat, have you ever played an ugly character purposely?
Yes, I did once.
Once?
Yeah, once.
The droid doesn't count.
It's not the droid.
Okay, yeah?
No, but admittedly, I was playing Toon.
Oh, okay. Were you a cartoon character?
Yeah. So, but it was for fun. It was to be silly. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to play somebody who's ugly, and that'll be their ability. So,
yeah.
But yeah, if you can create whatever you want, why not look the way you want to look? And especially at the time, my self-esteem was in the shitter. So yeah.
At the time, most of the characters you played were Aaron Sung from Farscape, essentially.
But with a bigger rack.
Oh, yeah, with much bigger rack, yes.
Yeah, and the thing is, by the same token, most male players do the same thing. I mean, nobody's trying to play a no-go. I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that. With games, you're trying to escape reality. You want things to be better than reality, and that's it. There's no excuse that you're not seeing yourself. You're not playing games to see yourself. You're playing games to be somebody else.
You're not playing games to to play your miserable coffee shop life job in D&D.
Yeah, it's like, no, yeah. Who wants to be a freaking semi-employed barista? No, nobody wants that.
I don't understand why that is actually a thing that exists.
We want to do an episode on that. It's just so ludicrous.
Yeah, it's not really a thing though. That's the problem. It's just a few hundred weirdos on Twitter, and then a bunch of people who insinuate themselves into certain industries and try to bring that crap into their games. And they're not interested in sales, so they don't care when all of a sudden people just leave the industry in droves because they're just trying to make a point.
It's kind of depressing that the guy that wrote that coffee shop D&D game is now running the D&D line for Hasbro. But anyway, back to better things. Back to better things, good things, things written by you.
Yes.
Before we dive back into GODKILLER mode, there's just too many comments about riffs. So,
since we were already talking about gaming, let's segue into good gaming.
I think, you're probably the ideal person to be writing this stuff because you've written a lot of them.
Actually, no, there's another comment that she made.
Okay.
There it is. Janelle says that she doesn't have a question for you, but that she wanted you to know that Riff's Pantheons of the Megaverse is her favorite RPG.
Oh, that's awesome. That's actually the first book I wrote for Palladium. And that was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
I actually, the reason I pitched that idea to Palladium was that the very first RPG book that I read was Deities and Demigods for D&D back in the late 70s, I think, when it came out. Or early
you have 80s. A copy of that.
Well, there you go. Do you have the Cthulhu copy?
Yes, we do.
Oh wow, yeah, that's the one I read because that one. I mean, that had Cthulhu, it had RuneQuest, it had Elric, it had all the heroes that then eventually the copyright gods struck down.
Actually, sometime we've got to get you and Dungeon Delver talking because he can talk. He worked for Gygax. Mm-hmm. He can talk a mile about all the stories around that that are great. But so you read Deities and Demigods, and so that went to Pantheon.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was the book that caught my imagination, that got me into role playing in the first place. So I wanted to write for Rifts because I like the whole open ended. Pretty much, you could play almost any damn thing you wanted, and the power levels were off the charts. So I pitched Pantheons of the Megaverse to them, and I had a ball writing that book. So I'm glad people still enjoy it.
Yeah, I have found playing Rifts one thing that can be a real bane of a GM's existence, which is when I play a telekinetic with a Kira level telekinesis. I start to realize just how much 1d4 mega damage can be a pain in the ass in telekinesis.
Oh, yeah.
But then the other one that other listeners were real thrilled about was you're involved with Ultimate with the Rift's Phase World.
Oh yeah, that was a semi-original setting I built for the game, and I pitched it to Kevin Simbida as, what if Jack Kirby had drawn Star Wars?
Oh, damn! Now yes.
I think that would be called the New Gods. But...
yeah, so it was. So that was basically my pitch. It was a space opera, but turned up to 11. You have like Silver Surfer-like creatures fighting spaceships, and have ancient races of giant world conquerors and things like that. So it was that was my kitchen sink setting, and I had sort of like it had 3 galaxies and it had multiple civilizations. You had your basic Star Trek-like civilization. You had a sort of a Star Wars rebel civilization where the bad guys were actually more like the aliens from Alien, except with a culture and technology. So, I mean, writing that book was a ball.
What would you say is the one RPG setting, book, game you wrote that you're most proud of?
I would say the Buffy the Vampire Slayer RPG.
I didn't even know you did that.
No, I didn't know that either.
Oh yeah, that was that was Eden Studios, which was handling my witchcraft books. Got the license for Buffy and Angel back in 2000, I don't know, early 2000s, and I got to write the books. Then that was awesome.
Oh, that's too cool.
So, what was it about that specifically that you well, again, you're proud of, so that really stands out to you?
Well, I tried to come up with a system that would let you play as closely to the show as possible. So I watched like every episode multiple times, especially the fight scenes and the character resolution scenes, and came up with a system where even a weak character could occasionally rise to the occasion and do amazing things, and where even the supporting cast played a major role in keeping the super powerful slayers and vampires or whatever going and not losing their minds. So it was a lot of fun just coming up with that concept, and people who have played the game have enjoyed it a lot. So I'm pretty proud about that.
Do you ever reference the Sesame Street puppet episode?
No, actually, it was kind of funny because I injected quotes about the quotes from the series into the books, and the Fox license people actually scratched a few of them, like kicked them out of the book because they were too risque, which I found very amusing. I think the one that they raised first was the one where Sander starts bitching about getting syphilis. That was the Native American episode. And he was saying, and I got the weird syphilis, and he said a couple of other things. They nixed that one.
Oh man.
And the other one I wanted to ask about was Nightbane. How did that come about?
That was another attempt at an original setting for Palladium, and I wanted to do a sort of like a adventure horror mix where characters were they could be pretty much any sort of bizarre living nightmare that they could be, and it was clearly inspired by Nightbreed and the idea that there is this subculture of monstrous humans living among us. So I mixed that with like a weird Invasion of the Body Snatchers plot, and that was a lot of fun too.
Well, it was another one that really stood out to me as being one of the more unique and interesting settings to come from Palladium.
Mm-hmm.
But Palladium, I actually think, had one of the best systems for that kind of thing.
It's my favorite system.
Are there any RPG type things in the future that you're going to be working on, or is that kind of in the past?
Yeah, at this point, I don't see it happening. It's the role playing industry is just tough to get into, and to really produce something, you probably have to go the crowdfunding route, and it be and I've done it before. I crowdfunded my very first novel, but it just takes so much time from your schedule, just getting the crowdfundings set up and running and organized, that I'm better off just writing fiction.
Yeah, crowdfunding is that month that you're doing your crowdfund is you're working 2 jobs, if not 3, and you don't sleep during that month.
Yeah, and then when you're fulfilling, that's again another month that kills your.
Yes.
Do you at least have a wife that helps stuff envelopes and make sure things get to places?
No, I'm happily divorced, unfortunately.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think any of the crowdfundings would have happened in a organized fashion if it hadn't been for Kat. I think I just would have lost my mind.
But yes, it is a time sink, and I found personally that it's not just the month that your campaign is running; it's the month prior to and the month after as well, and then the fulfillment. So
Well,
I know how that is.
well, for me, it
yeah.
was-
Anyway. Actually, because you have you already mentioned that you're a gamer, you've been gaming for years and years, and then you wrote these supplements. How much of your writing for Palladium influenced your LitRPG?
Well, not much directly, except the idea that I always like to go over the top, overpowered characters, which I have. I've been accused of being a terrible writer for game masters, and a great writer for players, because I let players do all kinds of crazy things, and then the game masters are like, "How the hell do I kill this guy?" And obviously, with GODKILLER mode, you have a character running around with the powers of a goddess inside of her. And in Twilight Templar, the first novel of Eternal Journey, the character starts out as a simple paladin, but then he stumbles into an ancient sword that's alive, that has a great deal of potential to grow in power as the character goes up in level, and that gives him a leg up to survive in the new world.
one question though: is the sword smarter than the wielder?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the dangerous part.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a she, and they have a weird relationship down the line.
Ray Ritchie asks, has your writing method had to change to write effectively as you add more and more content or books to the Eternal Journey universe, as well as Bella?
Well, hello, Ray. First of all, he's a good fan and supporter of my work. And yes, well, when I started GODKILLER mode, I tried a new program by Amazon called Vela, which is an episodic format. You release episodes every once in a while. I try to do one every day, although I only manage about 20-25 episodes a month. And readers buy the episodes separately, individually, instead of buying the whole book. So GODKILLER mode was initially written as a Vela episodic series. And obviously it did change my writing style, because I'm essentially trying to tell a mini story with every episode, and try to leave them with a bit of a cliffhanger on each one, so people are interested in reading the next one. So the book reads, it flows much faster than my normal stories, and that's not saying that my regular stories flow slowly, but this one has a lot of action, and it goes from one predicament to the next.
Yang Yan Zhao asks, when you worked at Palladium, did you ever do any work on the Robotech RPG books?
No, I never got to do any Robotech. I think at that time they weren't producing. They were still having some licensing issues, I think. So they weren't producing many new Robotech books when I was there. So I never got the chance to try my hand at that.
Okay.
Are you looking for another question?
No, there aren't any.
Okay.
At least not that I saw.
All right. So,
No, go ahead.
No, you go.
You.
So you said that your GODKILLER, you've got another book on the way in that series, right?
Yeah. I continue the series on Vela under the name Queen of Blood and Shadows, and the first 53 episodes of that series are now being collected into a Kindle book that will be released hopefully next week.
Oh, very cool.
Is it up for pre-order?
No, unfortunately, by the time I collected all the chapters and had it ready, I didn't want to wait the extra weeks. That I think there is a minimum of how early you can put the book in pre-order. So I'm just gonna send it out into the wild.
Well, you heard it here first, everyone. Next week, go to Amazon and pick it up. If you have not read God Killer yet, go for the first book. The link is in the description.
Yes.
As always.
Awesome.
Okay, well, I think that was basically my questions. I mean, I guess the only other real thing to ask, and I don't know if it's valid anymore, is how did you get your foot into the door in RPG? I mean, you said it's changed a lot since you were in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's I have no idea how people do it now, but back in the ancient year of 1988, I believe, I submitted an article to Steve Jackson Games Role Player magazine.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was like almost like a little pamphlet that they released every week or maybe even every quarter. And they had small articles about GURPS. That was the game system that I used the most, because I like the sort of realistic and versatile system that they had.
Same thing.
So,
that's essentially what I always did.
Oh yeah. So you could do anything. So I wrote a little article on some martial arts advantages that for players, and they liked the article. And then one of the editors, Lloyd Blankenship, wrote me and asked me if I was interested in writing a martial arts book. And that was it. I guess I really liked the article.
That was a pretty popular supplement.
Yeah, and that was a martial arts. That was just a fun. That was my very first book, but that was before the internet, so I had to do a lot of research the old-fashioned way, going to libraries and buying books.
Oh, wow.
And then you also did GURPS Rome, and I forget the other one.
Yeah, I did Imperial Rome, then I did GURPS Voodoo, the Shadow War, which was sort of my swing at another World of Darkness-like setting. And then I did the game version of GURPS War Against the Cator by David Gerald.
Oh yeah.
So yes, I got to write in that universe, and that was a lot of fun. Series was very interesting. Of course, it never ended, but I don't think Gerald is in the business of writing anymore. So that was kind of frustrating.
So Ray's got another question for you.
He asks, what's your estimated publishing schedule for 2022?
Oh God, he loves to put me on the spot with the books, with the book releases. Obviously next week, Queen of Blood and Shadows. Then hopefully in February I'll have the 6th and probably final book of the Eternal Journey, which is called Siege. And after that, probably the 3rd GODKILLER series book. And after that, I may start a new series altogether, which may be LitRPG or maybe military science fiction, or maybe it'll be both.
So what does the future hold, since the immediate one is GODKILLER Mode, that series? What does the future hold for Caitlin in the next 2 books?
Well, in the 2nd book, she comes to terms with a lot of her powers and learns a lot more about the world she's in and what and the powers that she has to contend with. In the 3rd book, she's going to actually sort of go to a school for gods, where she is going to be sort of like Harry Potter and Game of Thrones, except with immortal creatures that have enormous power. And those are going to be the 3 books I have in mind so far.
I'm just picturing Heathers, but with gods.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit like that.
So, oh, sorry. We got a question.
Janelle asks if you could make your own TTRPG separate from what you have worked on in the past, what genre would it be and how would the mechanics work?
Well, I would probably like to do my version of World of Darkness, but better.
Awesome. So what would you do?
Well, for one, I tried to make the entire mythos to be fully compatible with each other. So it wouldn't be the vampires have their story and the werewolves have the story that completely contradicts the vampires, and the fairy basically have nothing to do with either and might as well be a separate game, and so on and so forth. So I would try to really work on the world building, so each particular supernatural would have their place and there's their own stories but still it would be a comprehensive universe rather than whatever the author at the time wanted to do.
Sounds like you've actually put some thought into doing this.
Well, yeah, and you may not have noticed, but I've tried 3 times already. I tried it with Witchcraft by Eden Studios. I tried it with Shadow War, and in a sense, I tried a little bit with Nightbane. I actually ran and of course Buffy. So that's 4 times. So yeah, I actually ran a Nightbane World of Darkness game, which was pretty wild.
Oh, cool. No, I'm with you. I loved World of Darkness, but it bugged the heck out of me. The more they piled on top of it, the more the world fell apart. So I'm with you. It's the number one thing that needs to be fixed is everything needs to work coherently.
Yeah, a coherent continuity and logic to the world setting.
Yeah. I did not like that they just freshly rolled out of the box hunter could kill a 500-year-old vampire.
Yeah, it's like they really need a continuity editor or even a world editor that could tell people no, which in a way the workings of White Wolf kind of remind me a bit of how assorted industries, everything from comics to fiction, has started to decay, because it pretty much became sort of like an artist first, needs of the consumer second attitude that has only gotten worse over the years.
Yeah, no, I agree. Were you going to say something?
Well, ask this and then I've got a question.
Ray Ritchie says, I thought you wrote military sci-fi for another publisher.
Yeah, I mean, I was supposed to, and unfortunately I've been so overwhelmed with things that I haven't been able to get to it. So I don't know if that's still going to be in the works. It's, but I sort of got ahead of myself and mentioned it, and then I haven't written the books yet.
Okay, so we're approaching the last 20 minutes of the show. I've got a question. You're an old school gamer, and gaming's sensitive, nice, and they're trying to really make it safe nowadays. Now, one of the best things about old school gaming is we've all got those stories of just completely outlandish, inappropriate, or offensive stories that happened. What are yours?
Oh, well, I mean, when I was running games, and I've been mostly a game master, I've pretty much tried everything. I've had I've had characters. I've sort of managed romance tales between characters and NPCs and between characters. I've done horrible things to the characters and to the world around them. And I've never gone out of my way to make anybody feel safe, because it's a fictional setting and you're supposed to, I mean, one of the main things about fiction is the ability to reach catharsis, to have strong emotions in a situation where the events really don't affect your life directly, and then you can actually feel better about your life and learn how to face that kind of issue in real life with a little bit more equanimity. So I've never worried about making things safe for people, and if they don't like it, they don't have to play my game.
Okay, I think I didn't ask my question correctly. Let me try again. When I was gaming in high school, you're in that high school phase where you're a rotten asshole, and there were games in which, like for instance, D&D. You've got two guys who are playing headbanger fighters, and one kid who's playing the halfling thief, who really wanted to play like it was Tolkien. And throughout the game, they just kept harassing the guy, and it culminated in them getting a bunch of marijuana and blowing the smoke into a bag of holding and then hurling the halfling into it and hanging it from a tree for the rest of the game. I mean, that kind of behaving badly.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Well, I mean,
now
I have to admit that I usually didn't let that stuff get to that level. Generally, if somebody was being abusive, I guess, well, not even abusive, but if somebody was trying to push things around, I always figure out a way to make them stop. So I'm kind of boring that way.
Well, no, that's actually good advice. Keeping your players under control. Like, what'd you do?
Well, generally, people behaving badly in some ways. I mean, there were consequences in the story. I remember one guy who he liked to play overpowered characters and kind of throw his weight around, but the opposition suddenly got tougher, and all of a sudden he wasn't that overpowering, and if he got too cocky or too pushy, people pushed back. In his case, he ended up being imprisoned. He was heavily wounded. Then he did something stupid, reaching through a portal, trying to grab something valuable, and then the portal closed on his hand, so he lost his hand. And I mean, there was a quest chain for him to get a new hand, but I think he got the feeling that he couldn't push the game master around, and he quit. So,
since you worked for Palladium, then another question: were you at all in on that whole controversy where somebody wrote into, I believe it was Symbieta, saying, "Look, I've got a problem with mega damage. I've got a character who's so tough, unarmored now, that he shoots himself in the face with a Magnum, 44 Magnum before every battle to show how tough he is."
Right. Yeah, I mean, I actually think he read us that letter. And, I mean, the point is, mega damage characters are superheroes. You're playing maybe not quite Superman, but you're playing Power Man. I mean, and they're bulletproof. But there is mega damage weapons. Even a hand laser weapon does mega damage. So it doesn't matter if he can't be hurt by a 44 Magnum. There is even a dinky laser pistol can hurt him. So I think it balances out.
Samuel I asks, did you ever resort to the rocks fall you die method?
I try to be a little more convoluted than that.
I don't know. I always thought the fun thing about mega damage in Rifts is a simple bar fight might leave a town in ruins.
Oh yeah, that was that could be always fun. But and a lot of people accuse me of being one of the worst enablers of that kind of behavior. But I mean, the basic book had a hatchling dragon as a character option, so I just thought I was going with the flow.
Yeah, just completely. If you wanted an overpowered setting where it was okay, where it really was written for that, Rifts is it.
Yeah, I mean, because if you needed bad guys, you could just pick up Rifts Atlantis, and all the bad guys there were mega damage beings, and they had a tremendous power. So it wasn't like you were lacking for opposition. I mean, I had a Rifts game where one of the characters was a Green Lantern, and several others were immortals or demigods, and they went to the Atlantis island, and they were running scared.
Really?
So, Yeah, I don't think I actually read that supplement, so I don't know what Atlantis.
Oh, it's
like.
crazy. It's sort of like Cthulhu monsters running around, and they have their own city.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. When after I read the supplement, that's when I said, yeah, you pretty much can do whatever you want.
All right. Well, we're down to the last 10 minutes. So first off, for all of you out there listening, last chance to get questions in.
Mm-hmm.
But next, where can they find you online?
Well, I have my own website, cjcarella.com. WWs, HTTs, the other crap. But yeah, cjcarella.com will get you there.
Which is all in the description, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
All those links are.
And I normally have a little web journal on Goodreads, and I have my author page on Amazon.com that has a link to the Goodreads blog, and then I have a Facebook page, which is Facebook yada yada CJ Carella. That's where you can all find my information on future and current projects and ask questions. The Facebook page is the one where I get the most questions, and I'm usually there every day, so that's the fastest way to get a response. And of course, you can email me at cjcarella@cjcarella.com.
Now, how can they follow you on Vela if they want to get, what is it, daily or weekly installments of your writing?
Well, I'm trying to do daily installments, and I usually end up hitting 20 to 25 episodes a month, and that's an ongoing.
And that's actually really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one cool thing about Vela is it keeps me working. I have to crank out those episodes every day.
Sorry, wrong question.
I kind of liked Janelle's comment, even though it's not a question. It's just so wrong.
Janelle says, my husband played a game where the DM claimed her husband's female elf character whored herself out and got pregnant, so her husband magic missiled his character's uterus to abort the pregnancy.
Oh, God. That's
all sorts of wrong.
Yeah, that's terrible game mastering. I mean, that's one thing I never did was to take the player's agency away. That they can do whatever boneheaded thing they want to do. I'm never going to make them do something the player doesn't want to do.
William says, just wanted to say, out of all the people trying to follow World of Darkness, I think you did the best with Nightbane and Witchcraft.
Yeah, I really like those books, and I also ran a Witchcraft Nightbane game. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I like mixing things, in case you haven't noticed.
Well, it's one thing, you see a lot of that now. The kitchen sink notion seems to be very popular now. Mm-hmm. It's just rarely done well, and you're good at it, which is, I think, what makes your work stand out personally.
Well, I try. I mean, I try to have a lot of respect for the main themes of whatever I'm mixing. I'm trying to make them work together. So it's like, you have to work at it, because otherwise, you can, chocolate and peanut butter is great, but peanut butter and pickles not so much.
Exactly.
I know we started a little early, but
well, was there any books, any projects, any topics that we either didn't cover that you'd like to talk about, or that you'd like to talk more about?
Let's see. Buy my books.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
use the links. Buy his books.
You know what? Actually, there is a question. Yes, everyone out there, you want someone who's capable, who does this stuff very well. This is your man.
Yes.
This is what this show's for, is hooking up readers with writers who are writing real fiction, real stories, not propaganda. But on that note, who would you recommend we talk to next or get on the show?
Well, if you can get him, I think Nick Cole and Jason Ansbach would be awesome. And I mean, Nick is a great guy. He was recently just running a D&D game on Twitch and YouTube that I was part of.
Oh, cool.
So he's certainly open to appearing on YouTube, and yeah, you definitely should reach out to him. And actually, he recently Amazon recently made all his books disappear for about 48 hours.
I heard
which-
about that.
yeah.
What happened?
Well, I think it was last Saturday. He wakes up and every book he's written since about 2019 disappeared from Amazon. And
Jeez.
his partner Jason got an email from Amazon saying that they've been responsible for numerous Amazon violations. Never say which ones, and they were banned for life.
Oh my God.
What
And
was the deal?
then they did some pushback, and then about 2 days later they reinstated the books and said it had been a mistake. But that's a very weird mistake, you know.
Yeah.
That's happening
So-
more and more. Like my Fury or my public account, that was the same thing that happened.
I bet it has to do with the name Galaxy's Edge again.
I noticed that you weren't on Twitter anymore. Did they erase your
Yeah, they kicked me off of Twitter, and you know what? I don't miss it. I really
Oh,
don't.
yeah.
I mean, I probably should be there for promotional reasons, but for sanity's reasons, it's helped.
Yeah, I'm only there for that, and even that is kind of a pain in the butt.
Okay. Janelle says that she has a super dorky question. Can Kitty Pryde be hurt by phase world weapons? This is an argument from a Rifts game she played 20 years ago.
See, yeah, this is the kind of question we need. Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She can get hurt by them. In fact, when I was writing them, I was thinking specifically for phase type characters like her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I don't like people who are invulnerable to everything. I like to hurt them.
Okay, Janelle, now you get to call up that friend you used to game with and say, look here, I got it from the
Yeah.
from the creator's mouth.
From the
Yes.
source.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, I say this has been a very successful show.
This has been a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's good to catch up with you. We will definitely do it again next time you have something to promote.
Very cool. Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
And yeah, anytime you want to promote something, even if it's just like you have a preview video you want us to host,
Mhm.
let us know. We'll put it up on Wordcraft.
Yeah, happy to do so.
Awesome. Very cool.
And in the meantime, I agree. Buy my books as well. Links are in the description.
Yeah, definitely buy his books,
Oh, thank you.
especially the one with the giant monsters, because I want a sequel to that.
You know what? Actually, that book is finally finding its audience. It was always just such an oddball title. People didn't know what to make of it.
It's so good. I mean, that whole mixture of like 1950s ethos and giant monsters is so great.
Well, thank you. I mean, I really was kind of. It was kind of sad when I first did World War Kaiju that so many people didn't quite know what to make of it. It's now finding an audience. That has been the most ordered book in the last couple months is my World War Kaiju graphic novel. And once the current book I'm writing is finally in the can, that's what I'm going to pick up next. I'm going to write the follow-up. So yes,
Very
it is
cool.
coming back.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
Well, my editor said so. She said that it has to be.
Wow. Yeah, I did crack the whip there.
She said, no, this is what you're doing next. Too bad. And I'm not
Very
making
good.
that up.
Always good to have somebody cracking the whip. In my case, the one I have cracking the whip is Ray Ritchie. Right in the
Ah.
chat. Telling me, where's the next episode of Vela? What happened? Why didn't I get an episode today?
Talk about it. Promote it. Work
Yeah,
it, baby.
that's right.
All right. Well, again, go pick up God Killer Mode,
Yes, God Killer Mode.
opposed to Goddess Mode.
Yes. Yeah, no, much better book, God Killer Mode. Much, much better.
And join us next week. I should have this right. I think it's JG Lamplighter is Jeggy is joining us next week.
Let's see.
No, it's John.
No,
Oh, John DeLaros.
it's
It is. I'm sorry. Yeah. Next week we have a Yegi Lamplighter joining us.
Oh,
So very cool. So thank you everyone in the chat for joining us and sharing your questions. And again, thank you very much, CJ Carella.
Carella.
I'm sorry. I always want to roll the L. I apologize.
And next time
No,
we
no.
don't want to wait more than a year and a half to bring you back on.
Yes.
Or actually, was it 2 years? Are we
Yeah, it's
going?
been 2 years because
Yeah.
we were still in California.
That's Next time we're going to wait more. It's not going to be 2 years before we have you on again.
No.
Awesome.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
All right.
Where's the thing? There it is.